All right, so we're diving into this pregnancy immune system research paper you sent over. Cytokine patterns in maternal serum from first trimester to term and beyond. Definitely going to be a deep dive today.
Yeah.
Pregnancy, it's wild, right? Protecting you, nurturing a new life. It's a balancing act.
It really is a balancing act. And the scope of this study makes it so insightful. They tracked 22 different cytokines and C-reactive protein,
Okay.
also known as CRP, which is an inflammatory marker, by the way.
Okay.
And get this, in over 700 women.
Wow. That's a lot of data.
Right.
So cytokines are basically at the heart of how the immune system works during pregnancy?
You could say that, yeah. Cytokines, they're like messengers,
Okay.
telling your immune system what to do. They're involved in almost everything. You know, how your body responds to, well, everything.
So this research is kind of like listening in on those messages.
Exactly.
Seeing how they change throughout each trimester.
Yeah, and it's not just random noise. This study shows the immune system changes in 3 stages during pregnancy.
Mm.
Like an orchestra, each trimester has its own unique sound.
Ooh, I like that analogy. So let's hear the music. What's the first trimester sound like?
Okay, so imagine the orchestra is warming up. First trimester.
Okay.
A burst of energy as everyone tunes their instruments. High levels of most cytokines.
Makes sense.
Makes sense,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot happening. Your body is building the foundation for new life implantation, placenta formation. It's all happening.
Yeah, the immune system's putting in the work, making sure everything's good. But then once things settle down a bit, does the music change in the second trimester?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Second trimester is a much more soothing melody.
Okay.
Things calm down, inflammation generally reduces. The focus now is all about the perfect environment for the baby to grow.
So less construction, more like creating a peaceful nursery.
Exactly. But here's the thing. They found a peak in CRP during the second trimester,
Wait, really?
which is interesting because usually that means inflammation.
Huh. I thought we were going for chill vibes in the second trimester.
Right. But this challenges what we think we know about CRP. It might have a bigger role during pregnancy, maybe even helping tissues grow and repair, which is super important for the baby.
So CRP is doing more than we thought. What about the grand finale, the third trimester? What's the music like then?
Well, obviously the third trimester is all about preparing for labor and delivery.
Yeah.
It's like the orchestra is getting ready for this powerful crescendo. The music picks up again.
So the immune system is really gearing up, getting ready for the big show. But didn't you mention there was a cytokine, like a rogue one, that doesn't quite follow the pattern?
You're talking about eotaxin.
Eotaxin.
Yeah. It actually declines throughout the entire pregnancy, unlike the others, which go up and down.
Eotaxin, that does sound familiar. Remind me what's so interesting about that, the fact that it goes down.
Well, we're still figuring out exactly what eotaxin does during pregnancy, but because it does, it decreases while other cytokines are fluctuating, it could be a really useful marker of a healthy pregnancy, like a heartbeat,
Yeah.
letting us know that everything is going as it should.
So we could track eotaxin, and that could potentially give, like, healthcare providers another tool
Right.
to keep an eye on those pregnancies.
Wow. That's amazing. Okay, so we've talked about the 3 trimesters, but you mentioned that things get even more interesting in late-term pregnancies,
Yeah.
After that 40-week mark.
Yeah, you can think about it like the orchestra's ready for that grand finale, but then the curtain's delayed. So it's like this holding pattern, this extended preparation, which puts a stress on the system. And what they found was that these cytokine levels, they actually surge even higher in those late-term pregnancies, especially after 40 weeks.
So it's like the immune system is on high alert,
Yeah.
waiting for the cue, which I guess makes sense, but also sounds kind of intense. It's a delicate balance. Remember, the third trimester is all about gearing up for labor. And so when it goes beyond term, that preparation just intensifies.
Right. And speaking of labor, didn't the study also look at whether you could predict spontaneous labor using cytokine patterns?
They did.
Yeah.
And while it's still early days, it seems like it might be possible that certain patterns might give us clues. Imagine like using a simple blood test one day, being able to predict for each individual mother when they might go into labor.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. But this study, it went even deeper than that, right? It also looked at how individual factors can affect a woman's immune response during pregnancy.
Exactly.
It's like each pregnancy is its own performance.
Yeah.
It's got its own instruments and melodies.
Exactly. So things like BMI, whether someone smokes, and even, get this, the sex of the baby can all influence that cytokine profile.
Wait, hold on. The baby's sex can actually influence the mom's immune response. That's incredible. Like, it just shows how connected they are. Tell me more about that.
So what they found was that women carrying a female fetus, they had higher cytokine levels in that first trimester
Okay.
compared to those who were carrying males,
Wow.
suggesting that there's a different way that the maternal immune system interacts with a female versus a male fetus.
Like the immune system knows.
Right.
And is adapting right from the very beginning.
Yeah.
What about factors like BMI and smoking? How do they play into all of this?
Well, they found, unsurprisingly, I guess, that mothers with a higher BMI had increased inflammation throughout their pregnancy.
Yeah.
Which makes sense when you think about what we know about obesity and how that impacts the immune system generally.
It's just, yeah, it's another reason to really, put your health first during pregnancy.
Right.
It's not just about the baby. It's about, you
Exactly.
supporting your body.
Exactly. And then with smoking, the study showed that there were elevated levels of IL-12, IL-17, and CRP.
Okay.
And while this study didn't specifically look at what that means, it's a good reminder that smoking does have an impact on the immune system,
Right.
which of course can have implications for both mother and baby.
It really makes you appreciate just how amazing, how powerful the immune system is,
It is remarkable.
especially during pregnancy.
And we're just scratching the surface with all this. Right?
Right.
This is just one study.
Yeah.
And it seems like pregnancy is not one size fits all,
No.
even immunologically speaking.
So how does this change, like, if we were to sum up, how does this research change the way we think about pregnancy?
Well, I think it just shows you how complex it is, right? It's
Yeah.
like we're getting this peek behind the curtain and we're realizing that there's this whole symphony happening inside. Your immune system is conducting this complex orchestra in response to, factors specific to you and your baby. And it really just highlights how incredible our bodies are, how adaptable they are.
So are we moving towards a more, like, personalized approach to pregnancy care?
That's the hope, right? Imagine being able to use this knowledge to actually provide much more tailored care
Right.
and support throughout pregnancy.
Yeah.
And this study really paves the way for that.
That's very exciting. But before we get ahead of ourselves, you mentioned something interesting before about how these trimester-specific immune profiles aren't necessarily, like, set in stone.
That's right.
There are even more factors that can influence them.
Yeah. It turns out that there are.
Okay, so, like, what else could be at play here? What else could be influencing these immune system changes? What else could be at play here? What else could be influencing these immune system changes?
Well, things like the mom's age, whether it's her first pregnancy. Oh, and even the baby size can all have an impact.
Okay.
It's like adding all these, extra layers to the symphony we were talking about.
Yeah, so it's not just the baby's sex, it's all these other things that make each pregnancy unique.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack it. What about the mom's age?
You would think that would be a big one, right? But surprisingly, it didn't seem to have a huge impact on the overall cytokine picture.
Really? So, like, no matter how many candles are on the birthday cake.
Exactly. It's like the immune system can just roll with it.
The immune system is amazing.
It is. It shows just how resilient it is.
Okay, so what about if it's a woman's first pregnancy versus, her second, third, whatever?
Well, they actually found that women who had already had a baby had higher cytokine levels in the first trimester
Oh, wow. Really?
compared to first-time moms.
Interesting. I would have thought that if you'd, been through it before, your body would be like, okay, we got this.
Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? But it's almost like the immune system developed a bit of a memory, and it becomes a little more reactive, maybe.
Huh. Our bodies are incredible.
They are.
Okay, you also mentioned something about the baby size earlier, like how big the baby is.
Yeah, they found that women who had larger babies, their cytokine levels were higher. And that was even noticeable in the first trimester.
Wow. So bigger baby, more of a response from mom's immune system. Is there any idea why that might be?
Well, they need to do more research, but it could be because there are just, greater demands placed on the mother's body.
Right.
The immune system has to work harder to keep up.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
This whole conversation has really been eye-opening. Like, we think about pregnancy as this beautiful, magical thing.
Yeah.
And it is, but it's also this really complex, interaction, like two individuals having this conversation on a cellular level.
It makes you appreciate the human body in a whole new way.
Right. Absolutely. So for anyone listening, whether you're pregnant, thinking about becoming pregnant, or just, science nerd like me, what's the, big takeaway here?
Well, I'd say just remember that your pregnancy is unique.
Hmm.
Your immune system will respond in its own way based on a million different things that are specific to you and your baby. And while we still have a lot to learn, research like this gives us a little peek behind the curtain
It really does.
and hopefully paves the way for, even better care in the future.
It's really exciting. Well, this deep dive has definitely given us a lot to think about. Trust your body, embrace the unknown, and never stop being amazed by science and how incredible life really is. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Stay curious.